tides. It's been moons since I climbed so many flights.
Just be glad it's behind us.
What is that? Liz.
We have to help her.
Aegis, what is that thing?
Questions later.
Hello. Always a bit of a surprise to see health bars in a cutscene. That's when you know you're definitely fighting. Come on over. Oh, it's Purple Man from earlier. Alright, yeah, that's the thing we saw. It's called a birati. We saw that in the previous cutscene. Lyssandra's here. We better keep her alive. There's Jezero. Oh no, a corpse. That person's dead-ish or something. Let's all group up around Lysandra. We don't want anything going wrong with her. Is she running directly into the danger? Let's not... Don't do that. That's like the thing we don't want you to do. There we go. Just trying to make a mess here. Summoning a few drakes. There we go. We'll be fine. Everyone's more or less alive. Let's get out of that line of damage. Hey you, stop casting stuff on people. I'm gonna go behind you real quick. Is Lysandra alive? I can't tell which is her right now. Oh, there she is. She's fine. There's so much going on the screen at once. It's like, one of you is Lysandra. We'll be fine. Everything's fine. Even the big guy's down already. He was less tough than that cutscene led me to believe, unless he's gonna get back up.
Once more.
Lysandra!
What are you... Liz! Lysandra! No!
Amadea.
We searched the cavern below, sir. She didn't make it.
Get back to the streets. The others need to know. Gently.
I'm sorry.
This moment has been on the horizon ever since the war began.
That doesn't make it any easier.
Yes, it does. We are tired of fighting, of losing, of dying. Our respect for Lysandra, for the dream she held onto, was all that kept us going. Now that she is gone...
What are you saying?
Perhaps now is the time for us to rest, to fade into the shadows, where we should never have left. Perhaps it is good that she is gone.
You don't mean that.
Yes, I do. The crest of the Melicarte. Your brother designed it. A wreath
Of Night's Bane, to remind us to be a beacon of light in the darkest shadows. A swath of red for the blood of those who gave their lives for us. And a shattered mask for the dream that one day they will not matter.
That dream has long withered in our hearts. This crest no longer has a home.
Jezero.
Take it, or the soil will. Good. Now, the golden canvas.
What?
Before the Dactytes attacked, Lysandra was going to tell you about the Herald. They have a temple under the golden canvas. Lysandra and I had been there once. They tried converting us, but we resisted.
A temple?
For something that's appearing to be their religion. Go there, and you will learn more yourself. There is only a single red grating in the whole ward. Descend through it, and you'll figure it out.
And what of the Melicarte?
I have said already. Now is the time for us to sleep. Goodbye, Cicero. I hope we never see each other again.
Well, I gotta say that my stance was rather validated there. That's a terrifyingly dangerous place.
A little early for a fire.
It's a cold day.
Did you know her well?
Not really. I'd seen her maybe twice in all. And she and my brother, they were close.
There was nothing you could have done. You made a breakthrough today, learning about Mascherines. That's quite an accomplishment.
It doesn't feel like it.
Everyone's talking about the golden canvas. It's Seho's sojourn today. It'll be bustling.
Festivities, just what I needed.
Cicero.
I know, this is pathetic, but allow me just a moment. The Melicate were my brother's dream, and now it seems foolish that I'm mourning something that died years ago.
You mourn when your heart calls for it. There is never a foolish time.
Calden?
Yes?
Never mind. It's an unworthy thought.
I think by now we both know there is no such thing.
This investigation, this thing that we're wrapped up in, it's growing bigger than I ever imagined it'd be.
I don't think any of us imagined that we'd learn that Mascherines had been Dementicate, that they've been alive.
I don't know what else we'll find. How much bigger this might get. We have limits, all of us. I made a promise.
And you're trying to keep it. That's enough for me.
Have you spoken to the twins?
The carriage can't fit all of us, but they're willing to make 2 trips. Leventhus and his family have plans to go too. They are runic after all.
Then we should leave soon.
I'll tell the others.
Hello. Yeah, it's certainly a rough patch. Lysandra's very, very dead. I kind of wonder, as a side note, just because her mask fell off, I wonder if somebody collected the Masquerine or not, because if it fell off of her, then it may have survived, since it's supposed to specifically disappear when people die while wearing them. But yeah, it's a horribly dangerous place. It's a giant bubble covered in a crust of rock, and that's it. It's a horrible place to do anything. The moment we got attacked, we were already screwed. And then, frankly, after what happened to Lysandra, I was baffled by the fact that we even stayed on top of the rock to continue to have a conversation. We should have gotten the hell out of that entire area and had our conversation elsewhere, because the entire place was surely completely unstable after that horrible impact, and at any moment it could have collapsed and killed all of us. That place is no joke. Mask runners. Jezero von Hurik 1. Dreams are not yeah, I hope we never see each other again. And then the codex entry is part 1. Dreams are not tokens handed down easily. The passing of belief from a person to another is a process that has no formula, and which leaves little tangible evidence in its wake. I do not believe that it is a skill that can be taught, or an ability that can be learned. It is simply something that happens, or in the case of Jezero, something that doesn't. I cannot blame the man for taking up the mantle. It is one that has been made heavy by the blood it has been steeped in, but that does not make his decision weigh any less upon my heart. After all, his dream was one of the last few things Cyrus left behind. As much as I am inclined on attempting to convince Jezero to reconsider his decision, I know it would be hypocritical of me if I did not first do the same. Until I can convince myself that I fight for my brother's cause, how am I to convince anyone else? And then Lysandra Rourke Part 2. It seems I was wrong, indeed. That strength Lysandra had, it was special. But not by virtue of its nature. It was special simply because she held it. Now it is gone, and so is the last fragment of my brother's dream. My father used to tell us a short tale when we were young, which I believe he penned himself. I still believe he was a better blacksmith than he was a writer, however. He told us that there was a kind of lesson in it. I think it went along something like this. The sheep are scattered, each by its lonesome. The sheep have no dreams or wishes or troubles. The sheep find a shepherd to take their burdens. He thinks for them and bears their stresses. The sheep are bright and mirthful and radiant. Their lives know less grief, but instead companionship. The sheep stand together, those once many, now called one. But time is a cruel mistress, and no fruit stays ripe forever. She comes and she claims, and even the best are not spared. The sheep lose their shepherd, the flock is now free. I had never known what the message behind the story was. I am unsure if I ever will. It's, let's see. It speaks to, I think it sort of speaks to the idea that, people maybe don't ever get their own purpose sometimes, and once somebody gives them a purpose, they feel like they belong there, so they succumb to this, they give in to being loyal to this other person's idea, but when the person's gone, they're left aimless because that drive they were following was not necessarily their own. And it talks to them in terms of being free, because, yeah, to some extent, when you're removed from that kind of context, in some ways you are freed. You may have felt stuck against something that you didn't actually believe in yourself, but it was something that belonged.
Quite a thing, isn't it? I wonder what she'd once been like.
She?
My Masquerine.
You're so sure it was a woman?
I like to think so.
I can only imagine how the city would react to this if they found out.
Do you think we might one day be able to communicate with them?
I don't even know if they're sentient anymore.
It's worth a try, though, isn't it?
Be my guest?
If you can hear me, give me a sign. She must be sleeping.
It's a worthwhile question. Are they constantly aware of the fact that they're attached to our faces and giving us magical powers, or are they just derived from sentient creatures, but that's it?
Amadea.
Cicero. Not now. Please.
We did all we could.
I know.
Amadea Invidious 9. She is broken. She had the chance to make up for all those years of hate towards Lysandra, and she spurned it. I know she would have patched things up with her if she could. After I spoke to her about Invidious, I could tell. The pressure had been lifted, a weight had been eased. She'd taken the first step. Which makes it all the worse that she didn't have the chance to finish the journey, and she knows it too. Ever since I've watched her walk around and seen how her gaze has become weighted, her postures bent, her steps ever so heavier. This is the kind of grief that is inconsolable. It is a loss coated with a tenacious remorse that allows it to endure, that inoculates it from healing words or soothing touch. But she is in a better place than she was before. Before, her heart had been hidden behind fiery thorns of contempt and icy bulwarks of resentment. Those fortifications time cannot touch, only fuel. Now, her heart is steeped in a kind of loss and grief that the waters of time will dilute. She might feel its suffocating grip more acutely than before, and I doubt it will ever truly go away. But she will learn to overcome it. In the meantime, however, I must stand by her side, for I know how frigidly the lance of loneliness strikes in a time like this. That's awfully supportive. By the way, we caught up fast. Amadea and Tiziana have the same number of codex entries, but we're actually, we're more close to finishing Amadea's than anyone else's. Almost to the point where I'm kind of wondering if she's going to leave the story somehow or not. I don't know what to expect there. But I think it's probably just because we are encountering a character that's important to her particular story. And so we're just sort of particularly dense in her entries this early on.
Thinking of how to tell the judge, Master?
It's not every day that I'm required to be the bearer of news as world-changing as this. Mascherines and Dementicate? It's almost too much to believe.
But you do?
How can I not, with everything that's happened?
I'd imagined you to be more, skeptical than that.
I suppose you would, wouldn't you?
Tiziana?
If you'll excuse me, Inspectore, I have a report to send.
Of course.
Well, that was oddly judgy, wasn't it? I wonder if I hit a nerve or something.
Ready for the sojourn, Damien?
It's so exciting. I heard they're selling the anthologies of Mayara Terrell. Damien, we already have half of them. But the collection has Mayara's notes. All right. Let's go get the stories we have. Maybe we can trade them in for a better price.
Your son is close to his culture.
Sometimes too close. Forgets that we're in Ombre. The color of skin means so little here.
Homesick?
Terribly so.
What is it? Ven.
We were supposed to sail tomorrow.
Sail?
Across the belt back to Rune.
What?
Please don't take this the wrong way, but I watched you and Cyrus grow up maskless.
You don't want him to go through that.
Neither does Livia. It's why she buries him in her culture instead of the culture of the city. She doesn't want him to grow up feeling like he's worth less simply because he doesn't have a stupid mask.
It certainly kept the light in his eyes.
I can only hope it'll stay.
You should go. Tomorrow is still ahead of us. You can make it.
And let you take care of yourself. The last time I did that, you almost set my house on fire.
Ven, I'm serious.
Before you came back, there was little reason to stay. But now, maybe you can teach him a thing or two.
Me?
About life in the city. Ease him into its better half. Give him a mask, maybe.
A masquerine? Ven, I don't think...
Forget I said anything. You have other things to worry about, I'm sure, and so do we.
Oh, Ven.
Oh, family struggles. That's a concern, trying to figure out where his family should even persist. Oh, more 11th Though story. I would not consider myself a man in possession of intense astuteness, but neither would I say that I am deeply lacking in thoughtful consideration. I will, however, admit that Levanthos' suggestion to give his son a masquerine has not been something that I'd ever given thought to. Much like the Ombrians, by the way, I need to correct that pronunciation, because they've been saying Ombre, and I've been saying Ombre, because I don't know. But that finally clicked for me just now that I need to start fixing that. Much like the Ombrians that live in the days of the first canticle, Levanthos has always been of the notion that masquerines bring more trouble than they're worth. For the most part, I am inclined to agree. If one was inclined to preserve one's life, staying out of the dance of politics might possibly be the wisest thing one could do in the city, save leaving it. But now he seems to have changed his mind and instead wishes that I take his son under my wing, specifically so that he can learn to maneuver within the city. How great of an idea that might be, I have yet to come to an opinion on, but what can I say for certain is what I can say for certain is how much I admire Levanthos' concern for his family. It is difficult enough for the heart in this world, what the challenges of surviving in the city, to find the energy to care so deeply about another is a true feat. Love, familial or otherwise, is not something that survives easily in the streets of the city, and is often construed as a weakness that might be exploited. But as I've established before, Levanthos is not a man I'd call oft-met. His romantic inclinations might perhaps be better seen in no other example than that of his wedding. That he even bothered to hold a ceremony is already atypical in Ombre, but but he is sentimental and traditional, and he insisted that I be involved. Deeply. "This is ridiculous, Ven," I said, looking down at the garments that hung from my shoulders. "I'm 19 years old, not a runic priest. I don't know how these things work." "Firstly, most of our priests complete their training at the age of 18. Secondly, you don't have to know anything," he said as he adjusted his attire in the mirror, a beautifully embroidered vest over a silk white shirt. "You just have to." I held up the paper. "These are my instructions. It's 23 pages. It's got more pages than I have years of age. You just have to be able to read, is what I was going to say. There must be something else that I can do, that someone else that can do this." "Yes, there is," he replied as he turned away from the mirror to face me, with all the seriousness he could muster. "There are a couple of men that I know that had once been priests. One of them lives in the Golden Canvas, in fact." "Now I'm confused," I replied. "If there was someone else, a priest even, what was the point of me reading the rites?" Levanthos moved to the side of the room, tiny quarters in the attic of the Leaping Lion, which was going on this fine day, flooded by sunlight that poured through the room's single window, and took a loose sheet of paper that sat on a table beside the window. He held it out to me. "It's a list of people who were invited," he said. "Livia wrote it all down so that we could make seating arrangements downstairs. I took the paper and looked at it. There were 10 people on that list. 4 if Levanthos Livia and the members of the family were discounted. Fine, it's a small wedding. It's still a wedding, and I don't want to mess it up. Ben, this is your special day. With startling firmness, he clasped my shoulders in his hands and looked me into the eyes. Precisely, Cicero, he said. I had no idea a man could be at once so gentle and yet so firm. Trust me when I say the importance of this day doesn't escape me. I've spent my entire life dreaming of the day when I would seal my love with the woman of my dreams. I can scarcely believe it's all worked out so well. Livia is everything that I've ever wanted and more. The Leaping Lion is prospering, and now that it has, I feel like I'm unprepared. Like I'm a mess. I know you might not feel it under those robes, but your hands are so clammy, they're almost disgusting. My hands are so clammy, they're almost disgusting. I feel like I'm on the verge of crying and laughing and dying and screaming in joy all at the same time. I am aware of how special today is, Cicero. And then his voice dropped, and he spoke with a tenderness I don't believe I've ever heard since. And that's exactly why I want to share this moment with the people in my life who I treasure, not some scarce acquaintance dressed in robes. He dropped his hands from my shoulder and walked to the window. Though he looked out into the open frame, I sensed his gaze was reaching for something far beyond what lay outside. I'll be honest with you, Cicero, he said, his voice barely a whisper. That day that I offered you a job here, I hadn't done it purely because I wanted an assistant. I frowned. You never told me this before. In fact, we didn't often speak of that day, when I'd almost been killed by the viper tail he'd been ferrying as cargo. I did need help getting this place up and running, yes, but I was barely 20 years old. I was alone in a new world, and I had no one, and I wanted ages. Does it sound pathetic? But I wanted a friend. And so you thought the boy that tried to steal from you would make a good candidate, I replied, attempting to ease the atmosphere. He turned and shook his head, breaking the gaze. He turned to me. Please, Cicero, I want you to be a part of this. It would mean the world to me. It is difficult enough to find sweet moments in this city, and now that we have the opportunity to make one today, let's not put it to waste, huh? Just, what do you say? It's just 23 pages. I looked down at the colorful robes that hung from my shoulders and sighed. I looked back up at him. When I get married in the future, I want that vest, do you understand? His laugh was hearty, full of relief and sheer joy. I promise, when you get married, I will tailor you so much more. He rushed over and embraced me. Thank you, Cicero. Now I must confess, he said as he pulled back and opened a drawer from the table and pulled out a sheaf of papers. There were a few pages that I accidentally left out. All that build up to that reveal. There's a punchline at the end of this touching anecdote. This is probably just, the skill reset. Just making sure. Don't want to miss anything important. What's going on right here?
What?
Ah, Inspectore. I was wondering who was going to pick that up.
Did you hang it here?
It? I don't even know what it is.
It's a bone whistle. I used to play with them when I was much younger, with an old friend of mine.
Can you still play? That sounded pretty good.
Yes, well, we have places to go.
Ah, yes, the golden canvas. Ready when you are, sir.
We have places to go, but we also have Mascherines to check out. And a new ink variant. So, what did we find here? Do we have new case notes? Yep. It has been but 2 days since my arrival in the city, and the world that I thought I'd return to is already unrecognizable. But I must put it all down before it slips my mind. After we'd fallen into the abyss beneath the pin drop, we came upon a set of ancient ruins in which we stumbled upon a detailed ritual of cleansing that the prisoners of the Dimenticate underwent before they were turned into Mascherines. Ages I feel so foolish scribing these words, but I know they are true. Mascherines had once been people. It was written all over the door in the final chamber of the ruins, and it cements the notion that I had earlier that the artifacts that we're in search of are somehow involved. Amadea had been translating the writings on the wall, when one line stood out to me. Through the Father's heart, you will be redeemed. I have no doubt that the choice of words was intentional. The heart that is spoken of in the ritual must be referring to the heart, one of the pieces of the Treror. You know, the Treror, I haven't heard that word out loud for a while, so I don't remember how to pronounce it. I cannot believe how serendipitous our encounter in the ruins has been. There were no pieces of evidence that led us to the pin drop specifically, yet without the knowledge that we gleaned from the ruins beneath it, I risk sounding like Corvus when saying this, but it feels like there's something greater than simple coincidence at work here. It's a silly thought, I know, but staring at the statue of the Bray Ag there in the ruins, I must shake this foolishness and return to the task at hand. Jezero has told us that we must go to the Golden Canvas to find the Dactytes' hideout. As for Lysandra, when the day comes, Lys, I shall ensure that a song be sung in your name. There's no coming back from that one, unfortunately. She's gone for good. Got a new mask somewhere? We already had you, right? Which one of you has a new mask? Nobody had a star on their icon, on their name, really. Call Lightning was already there. We've seen that one before. Meteor Storm. Calls down a meteor storm on the target location. That looks new. Chakra. Launches a slow-moving fireball in a single... Nope. Never mind. I think I had that one already. Maelstrom. Conjures a maelstrom at the target locations. Sucks enemies within 8 meters for 8 seconds. Maybe one of these wasn't here already. I don't know, they seem familiar. Am I losing? Did I miss it? I don't know. I thought I could have sworn that it said there was a new mask. Maybe it was just a pop-up talking about the fact that we have access to a new variant here. Engravings. Is that the new one? Yep. So we had 25% bonus damage, 20% proc rate. The next one is 20% bonus damage, 25% proc rate. Okay. So you can choose between damage and proc rate, and some of these are pretty good things to have more of, potentially. Let's see. Bonus movement speed. Restores 2% hit point and focus. That could be a good thing to have, proccing 1 in 4 times, for example. I actually like that idea quite a bit, I think. That or mask charge, though, for example. Might be a good thing for the main character to get, to go on higher proc self-healing. But some people that are more casting-based may want to keep stick to mask charge. So, Tiziana, for example. 2 of the people that I most associate with melee attacks may benefit from bonus proc chance of healing to keep them tanky a bit. But I think I might keep the other ones where they are already. No other variants around? Nope. Alright, so we have a few versions. They're all relatively minor passive upgrades, but they're there and they're worth considering. Let's get on the road.
Ready to go, sir?
Who's on the first trip?
Yourself, Amadea, Vasco, and the Marshal. We'll come back later for the Mariner and the Innkeeper's family.
Let's go then.
We're totally gonna get separated, aren't we?
It's exciting, isn't it, sister? I've never celebrated Seiho's sojourn before.
Just remember, almost everything there is more expensive than it needs to be. Keep your crescents for the things that you need.
Oh, I will. I've got a whole list of them I think I can find there.
Ugh.